Hello and welcome to another episode of History with Andy Akright. I'm Andy Akright. Today I am at the corner of Maple and Martway, but more noticeably down here you have Nall and Johnson Drive right there where the FedEx, there's a FedEx and a bank. Across the street is a BP. Now people drive all the time down Johnson Drive not knowing that there's this treasure here and a sacred place. So let's check it out. We are at the Pearl Harbor Memorial Park. Remember Pearl Harbor. Keep America alert. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Maintained by the Mission Project. So, Mission Kansas does maintain this. You'll see the flagpole here. And you'll come back over here. Now, here is what seems like a nice little place to sit, but it's more. It's two benches under an arbor with almost an altar-esque monument at the back. Now, Pearl Harbor was December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, as many know it. On the U.S.S. Arizona, there were 1,554 men. 1,177 of those men died. This is a memorial to Pearl Harbor, but especially to the U.S.S. Arizona. It was dedicated on VJ Day, Victory in Japan Day, in 2004. So there's Dorwin Lankin and Bob Becker were two of the great influences in getting this made. Now, Bob Becker had three brothers stationed on the U.S.S. Arizona. Three brothers. Wesley, who was only 18, Marvin, only 22, and Harvey, who was 24. On that morning, Wesley and Marvin were on the boat, and they lay at sea, rest in sea, and they died in the attack. Harvey had shore leave that day and had a place to stay, so he was not there. He was not on the boat. But an interesting little tidbit, the last time the three brothers had a picture taken of them was Thanksgiving Day, 1941, November 26th, just a couple weeks before Pearl Harbor. And that was actually the first Thanksgiving Day officially declared as the fourth Thursday. On the benches you'll see the names of Pearl Harbor survivors. Now these are all people from the Kansas City Metro who survived that day. You will see here the name Dorwin Lankin. He was on the U.S.S. Nevada, and then he fought in two major battles on the U.S.S. San Francisco and was decorated for those. He was the last known survivor of Pearl Harbor to die in Kansas City on March 20th, 2019. At the age of 96, he passed away. Okay, so Bob Becker had his three brothers. He was only 14 at the time. He would go on to drop out of high school early and join the Navy at age 17. So they heard of the attacks. He and his dad were out farming, and they heard of the attacks and they came in. And they had to wait 2 days before Harvey could call and say, I can't find him. Checked the hospitals, checked everything, I can't find him. So here we have almost an altar. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor Memorial Park. It would be 2 weeks before they received a telegram saying that Wesley and Marvin were missing in action. And in a few months, they had a telegram saying that they were believed to be dead. Now, the brothers had requested to be on the same ship, but it was Bob Becker who came up with this idea. Now, he lived in western Kansas, but he and his wife moved here to Mission and really got this involved. Dorwin Lampkin was the president of Pearl Harbor Society and all that. Now, the U.S.S. Arizona, as you might see, you might recognize that memorial right there. You'll see this boat. The Arizona was launched June 19th, 1915, upgraded in the 30s to counter Japan's quest for control of the Pacific. She was a formidable battleship with steel armor and a dozen 14-inch guns. She also had underwater torpedo tubes, 8 anti-aircraft guns, and could launch seaplanes for scouting. She now sits with only her aft gun turret rising just above the sea harbor surface. If you go to the memorial in Hawaii, you'll still see oil coming up from the ship. And they decided to leave the USS Arizona as a resting place, as a final resting place for these 1,177 men who died. Now, this is a relic. This is a relic. And we see over here, this certifies the enclosed item is from the aft deck house superstructure of the battleship U.S.S. Arizona BB-39, which was sunk in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii during the Japanese attack on December 7th, 1941. Now, the Navy had taken apart the aft deck house superstructure, but they left the boat in, and they decided to give pieces of that superstructure to organizations who showed that they really valued Pearl Harbor and everything that it stood for, and what it did and caused America's involvement in World War II. And you can even come up and touch it, and you can feel a piece of the ship where 2 of those 3 brothers died, and 1 brother was able to honor them. All these survivors, one by one, passed away. There are no more to tell the story. So the story is left to history and to us to tell. But here, you can touch, you can feel a piece of history. You can feel that rusty part that was in the water. Along with this beautiful little seating area, it's very peaceful and quiet. You might hear the cars, but they don't bother you. You will see, if you look quickly, if you're coming down the right road, a very large anchor. This large anchor is from the U.S. Navy. It has no markings on it. There's quite a debate as to what it is, where it's from and all. The story that Mission City Hall gave me was that they had an intern who happened to be a Delta Gamma. Now, Delta Gamma is sorority. Their symbol is an anchor, and they try and have an anchor in front of every sorority house. So she called up sorority headquarters or whatnot, and they made a call and got this donated for the Pearl Harbor Park. My cousin was in Hawaii and went to the memorial and was on a tour, and they said that there are only 2 of these on display, and one is at Pearl Harbor and the other one is in Mission, Kansas. That's right, I said it. So this is a salvaged anchor, obviously from a big ship, not from the Arizona, but a salvaged anchor to represent the ship, the size of the ship, the lives that were lost. Here in Mission at the Pearl Harbor Memorial. I don't like ending on a sad note, but sometimes good things come out of bad things. And even though there were many lives lost, the number of lives that were saved from America entering the war and helping to liberate those who were prisoners, those who were going to be killed, those who were going to be tortured, those who were going to be gas chambered, that is a good thing. Those 3 brothers chose to enter the Navy. Their little brother, who was 14, then chose to enter the Navy later. They gave their lives for our country, for the betterment of the world. This has been another episode of History with Andy Akright. I'm Andy Akright. Hope to see you next time.